Welcome to Blue Talks.
Thank you so much, Diane, and Corey and Heidi and all the Blue Talks crew and community here. Appreciate you guys all. We all come into this world wanting, desiring, with a core need to be loved. I remember one of my very first memories was in a foster home. I was a little girl, about 3 years old, and I was climbing up a tree house, and a nail went through my finger. I don't even remember the pain. I remember I still have the scar on my finger here. All I remember is I just really wanted to be with my mom, but she wasn't there. All of these moments in and out of foster care, they taught me lessons. Although it was hard to experience these moments like where I was back with my mother because I had prayed and thought that God had answered my prayers, but I was only back at home with her for a month. Then to have her drop me off at the social worker's office when I thought we were going to the mall to buy a slip, and having her say that she wasn't able to take care of me and my brother. And the social worker was holding me back as I was kicking and screaming and trying to run to her. All I wanted was to truly be in her arms. And then again, finding myself in another foster home, that though on the outside, it looked like it was the most perfect home, with the perfect family inside. It was beautiful, lots of room, lots of space. And yet my brother and sister and myself were locked in the basement, sleeping in one room on the floor on mattresses. But in that moment, I found my voice because I love my sister and brother so much, and my brother was being abused, and I wouldn't stand for that any longer. And so I spoke up. I found my voice, and I knew in that moment it needed to matter. But I wasn't believed at first. Instead, I was removed from the home, and my siblings left there. Shortly after, they realized I was telling the truth, and they shut that home down. They removed my siblings, and they put them in another home. And although we weren't together for a few years, I know in that moment that I realized that I found my voice and it needed to matter, and I needed to continue to speak up. And I'm so grateful for these moments that taught me strength. Another moment was where I found myself leaving my foster home at 16, being back with my mother briefly, only for her to leave me the whole weekend, telling me she'd be back in just an hour. And in that moment, realizing that all these times being in and out of foster homes and going from foster home to foster home was needed for me. Though they weren't ideal, I realized I could not have fully counted on my mother to be there. Through all these experiences, I learned compassion because I can see that her addiction, her running away, was just her being able to deal with what she couldn't deal with. That no one had given her the tools or the skills to be able to navigate her emotions, her trauma, her grief, and her healing. And I saw that the system fails the children often. They failed us. That we find ourselves in these situations and we can learn so much from life, even from these moments of heartache and loss and difficulty. And what helped and gave me strength was to know that everything truly is temporary. Life is about choosing the path, no matter the hands we are dealt. We always have the power to make a choice, find another way. At any moment, she could have chosen differently, but she didn't. And at every moment, I choose differently. When I was 22, finding myself in an emotionally abusive relationship and pregnant. But when my daughter was only 6 months old and her father came home on drugs, waking her up, not feeling safe in that home, I took her the next day and I left. Because even though he loved our daughter, he didn't know how to love himself. And I decided to choose a different path for us. And though being a single mom was hard at times, I knew that path, that choice, was one I was making for me to give her and I a better life. Life is all about learning and growing, and in these moments, we have the power within our minds. Mindset is everything. I learned how important my thoughts were through many losses and hardships, but that led me to a life of personal development, a life where I could look at these moments in time and go back and feel them and heal them and sit with them. Acknowledge and forgive and have compassion for myself and others involved. Where I can send love out, because that is what we truly need in this world, is more love and understanding. Because you see my brother too. He found himself taking a different path, searching for love outside of himself, belonging somewhere. And that landed him in a tough crowd, which then led him to using. But when I look back, I can see that he too just didn't know how to see his life from a different perspective, how to choose a different way, and how to allow himself to feel and then heal. He didn't feel like it mattered. He always had such a big, beautiful heart, and his life could have been very different. But when he landed himself in jail and he found himself in a place where he was so afraid for his life that afraid for his life that they moved him to a different jail. And when he finally got out 5 years later, he found himself on a path that felt like he was coming into a place where he was going to choose a different way, a better way. But then he slipped back into the same crowd, started using drugs again. And because the system isn't there to fully support for recovery, they just put a Band-Aid on it. Sure, they think that drug testing is going to keep him from using, but instead it had him on the run because he was so afraid of landing back in jail again. And that fear led him deeper and deeper into that crowd, into that pathway, into one choice leading to the next and to the next. The last time I saw him, he was so weak, so frail. He had been using meth for almost 3 weeks straight. And then at this point, what do? How do I support him? We pleaded with him, but he has to choose for himself. I can love him, but he needed to love himself. And I remember getting a feeling one night that I just needed to reach out to him. So I sent him a text and said, "I love you so much." He texted me back and said, "I love you too." Those were the last words I heard from my brother. He passed away not even 8 hours later. His body finally had given out. What I know through this and many more experiences of loss and grief is that we all experience loss, grief, and change. But we also need to know that we matter. We need to know that we will get through it, that everything is temporary, that we have a support system in place, that someone to advocate for, someone to support us, but ultimately it is our choice. I couldn't choose a different path for him. But what I do know now is I have a fire within me. I want to be a voice for others until they can find their own. I want you to know that you're not alone, no matter what your circumstances are, that you can choose another way at any point along your journey. Is never too late. I want you to know that your voice matters, that what you are experiencing yourself or others, that you can speak up, that you can create change, or you can just simply ask for help. That you can say what you're feeling, that our feelings are there to guide us into healing when we have the tools. And also to know that your thoughts matter, that truly your thoughts are paving the way, that truly your thoughts are paving the way forward and what we think we create. And our thoughts are truly the place that creates our reality. So watch the thoughts you think about yourself, about your life. Change them to be positive. Be intentional. Allow yourself to be aware and catch each of these negative thoughts and replace them with positive ones. Your life matters. We all experience grief and loss and difficulties, but you can create a life that is for you no matter what. Know that you have choices. You can choose at any time a new pathway. You can navigate grief, loss, and change and see the gifts in it. Learn the lessons from it. Lessons are truly blessings. I want you to know that you matter, that you are needed in this world. You have a gift to share, so believe in yourself. Know that you are loved, and that when you love yourself and others, love will come back to you. I believe that is truly why I'm here. That is why I bounced around from foster home to foster home. This is why in those moments when my mother took her last breath, I was there by her side. Because I know that she mattered to me, to my sisters, to my brothers. But I also know that life could have looked very different if she truly believed she mattered too. And this is why I'm here today, standing on the stage to remind you of that. To remind you that your voice matters, your thoughts matter, your life matters, and that you matter. Believe in yourself. we can be the change we wish to see in this world. Thank you.